Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tribal Council podcast, where Survivor represents our life, and when it gets canceled, so do we. My name is Ethan Kronk, and I'm joined by my co-host, Connor Boudreau. How are you
Hello,
tonight, Connor?
hello.
I say tonight, it's the
I'm
morning, but
doing well. Yeah, recording this at 9 a.m. because we're smart, and I'm doing pretty good. So,
hell yeah.
feel like
It is technically Sunday, um, but that's okay. Um, we're here to talk about the most recent episode of Survivor 49, episode 9. Alex just got voted out. And we're going to be talking about the players in the order that I have them ranked based on how likely I think they are to win. Which means, with a 0% chance of winning, we will start off by talking about Alex. And yeah, Alex honestly kind of fell off in terms of being a character on the season. He was one of the biggest characters for the pre-swap, but consistently the amount of content he got just was just on a downward spiral for pretty much the entire season. So this episode is boot episode. He only got 2 confessionals, which is the least that any boot has gotten on their boot episode this season, aside from Jake. But Jake also didn't even make it through the entire episode. So I think that's an interesting thing about Alex, considering he had the second most confessionals in episode 1 and the most confessionals in episode 2. What do you think about Alex, Connor?
yeah, Alex is a situation where the further we got down the line, the less we actually got to hear from the guy, even though he had a pretty interesting start to his game. And I don't know, it seemed like more and more everyone was catching up to him in terms of gameplay, like off the bat, when you're on a small tribe, because you go to a bunch of tribals, you kind of get pushed into playing the game of Survivor quick, and you're almost a little bit extra prepared for when the swaps and the merge come. Uh, he almost, it felt like, just started falling further and further behind, even though he had more practice with the whole, you know, organizing votes, going to tribal. So I don't know. Him playing the middle so hard just didn't really work out for him in the sense that he had all the tools to try and organize a good game and failed to, I feel like.
Yeah, that's something that's interesting to me is this idea that he had to go because he was playing the middle so hard. It's like what exactly constitutes playing the middle on this season of Survivor? Is playing the middle voting consistently with the same people every single tribal council and just not like entirely alienating anybody who isn't part of your alliance? Because that's essentially what Alex did. He voted with Steven and Christina the entire post merge. Which, to be fair, he only attended 2 votes in the post merge. But like, it's I don't know. It feels weird to me to say that he was playing the middle when he never actually worked with like Rizzo and Savannah and that side of the game at all. He never really tried to work with them. He never really promised them anything as far as we were shown. Um, so meanwhile, you have Jawan and Sage who actually have gone back and forth, voted out Nate, and then switched to the other side to vote out MC and now Alex, and they're not playing the middle somehow. It just, I don't know. The criteria for what constitutes playing the middle on this season, I'm not sure I fully understand it. You know what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. I agree with it heartedly. Just tough one for Alex.
Next up, we have the person who I still think has the lowest chance of winning, Christina Mills. And, right before last episode, I predicted that Alex would go home, despite the fact that I'd sort of predicted Christina for the last couple episodes before that. Um, this episode, I'm actually going to predict Christina again, and I feel more confident about it than I ever have. I think that next episode is Christina's time to go. But even if she does stay in the game, it's going to take a miracle for her to find herself anywhere other than the bottom of this list. I mean, last episode was just so abysmal for her, despite the fact that she got quite a few confessionals, tied for the most of the episode. She spent most of most of those confessionals either talking about how Savannah needs to go home, or how no matter what, above all else, regardless of whatever else happens, Rizzo's idol needs to be flushed. 100% needs to be flushed. You know what didn't happen? Savannah did not go home. Rizzo's idol did not get flushed. Both of those players are still in the game, and the idol is still in Rizzo's back pocket. I mean, that's just terrible for Christina. Like, truly abysmal. I think, despite the fact that she got 8 confessionals, which currently accounts for almost half of her confessionals, not quite, but like, I mean, 8 out of 21. Um, I think this might be one of the worst episodes for Christina so far.
You know what? I'm not going to completely disagree with that. I think that's a pretty fair statement to say that Christina didn't exactly have the best of episodes, even though she got a lot of content. However, as carefully pointed out, none of it good, pretty much. Most of it was, oh, we should do this. Can't happen. Oh, this isn't a good thing. Let's hope this doesn't happen. Happens. So it's like, when most of your content is talking about things that don't end up resulting in happening, that's typically not a pretty good sign. However, I'm not on the same boat as you that I think that she'll go home this next episode. I think it'll be someone different, and I'll get to that later. But I definitely think that this is like one of the telltale signs that the game just doesn't end up ever really going in Christina's favor. It's just the episodes where we've actually gotten the most beneficial content about Christina have been episodes where everything has gone wrong for Christina.
Yeah, and the episodes where we've actually gotten good content for Christina, it's very little content and very, very few and far between. So it's just kind of like, to go from such a non-entity on the show, like by far the least confessionals. Well, maybe not by far. Sophie's pretty close, but like going from that to getting the most confessionals in an episode and having them all pretty much be bad confessionals is just so painful. I honestly feel bad for Christina because she seems like, a nice lady. She seems like a pretty fun personality. She could have, I feel like, gotten more screen time early on and just been a fun character, but she's just getting like one of the worst edits that I've seen in a recent season, quite frankly. And it's just unfortunate, but it is what it is. If Christina wins, I will eat a sock, a dirty sock, off my bedroom floor. Um, Number 7. Wow, there are so few people left. I have Sophie Segretti, and the gap between Sophie and Christina is now massive, but that doesn't change either of their placements on this list. I mean, Sophie actually had a really good episode, and she had a pretty solid episode last episode as well. Like, she's had 2 pretty good episodes back to back. And yet I still can't really put her any higher than this. Maybe if she gets another really good episode, but it's hard to say. Her pre-merge was just not good at all. Um, and that's not usually a good sign. So, I don't know. What do you have to say about Sophie? What do you have to say about her edit this episode?
I think that for Sophie, this is a pretty solid episode. It got a couple things done that needed to happen to help give her some good momentum. I unfortunately am going to make the prediction that this is where it comes to a steaming halt. I think she goes out next episode. I think that one of the things that could end up being a big negative for her is her doing all of this doubting of her group that she's supposed to trust after, she comes back and go, oh my God, you're still here. And it's like, that's such a negative thing to have happen. And it looks like she's going to spin it to a positive. She's considering, maybe do I jump ship? What do I do? And then without explanation, goes back to her old tribe and her old alliance. That is the big negative I would have for her in this episode. It's like we didn't get understanding of why she came to this decision at all. Honestly, I could see her being a big threat or down the road that they just decide if we let her get too far, she could do really well in this game, and it might be her time to go. Plus, we've now seen her lose a couple immunity challenges, which clearly means they think they're probably going to come to a conclusion that their time is limited before she'll win another one again, and then it becomes harder to get rid of her. So I almost think that this might be the last episode we get to see here is this next episode, is my current guess.
Only thing I'll say about that is that Sophie did vote for Alex this episode, so she did vote. So she did jump shit and vote with Savannah and Rizzo and Sophie B.
Yeah, but Alex also seemed to be the popular vote on this one somehow, which is weird.
Not for
Considering,
not for not for Sophie's old allies like Steven and Christina. It were like her real like she's the only original Hina who voted for Alex.
yeah, I just thought it was kind of interesting. We didn't get to see her like full explanation for it. I don't know. I just that to me that seemed very interesting that like she just didn't say anything about it, or we didn't get to see why she came to the conclusion of deciding to or not to jump ship.
Just kind of throughout the whole episode, like that was kind of, I don't know. I kind of feel like that was all of the content that she got, which was like a decent amount, 5 confessionals. I feel like
Yeah,
they
but
were all
it was
to some
much
degree.
earlier on, and she never specifically said Alex. She was never specifically shown, if I remember correctly, in a conversation where his name was specifically brought up, and it just happens to be where she votes.
Right, but like
Maybe she gets one conversation.
the idea of voting with Savannah and Rizzo was always part of her content throughout the episode, and we already knew that that's where they were going, so it was just kind of a
Yeah,
matter
I
of.
just thought it was odd that she didn't get to talk about voting Alex versus voting someone else, or talk about her deciding to. I don't know. I just thought the lack of content got around her thought process and decision making, even though she had such a positive episode, makes me think that that's kind of going to be the last positive. And again, that's a maybe bold prediction. I don't know. That also seems like a fairly reasonable thing to assume. But just given how the numbers are right now, it's kind of possible they could take that swing at Sophie pretty safely, I think. And
I
the
would
numbers end up at 4-3. I don't hate it.
I would go so far as to say that, I mean, the numbers are 4-3. Who's the 4 and who's the 3?
I'm saying regardless of where, well, I'm saying hypothetically, Sage and Jawan could go with Christine and Steven. Like worst case for the red guys, it ends up a 4-3 if they decide to give it to Sophie, but they have extra ways to combat that. But
Yeah, I don't know why they
they
would. I don't know why they would vote out. So I don't know why they would vote out Sophie over like Christina or Steven or even
I just think it's
or
something
even
they could
Jawan or
convince.
Sage.
My thought process behind that is just it's something that's like if you go after Christina and Steven, then Sage and Jawan would have to be on board, or it just would fail as a move. Um, and then specifically targeting out Sage and Jawan, it kind of then is the opposite of like you would then need either Steven or Christina to be on board with it. Whereas I feel like they could convince the majority of the group to go Sophie and go, well, you kind of cut ties with her last time and she's flip flopping. She could be really good down the line. I feel like
I
that's just like a really safe vote they could go for. That is boring, technically, also, but
don't think
like at the
that's
same
safe,
time,
but that's not safe at all. They'd be losing a number on that. They'd be giving up a number on their own side when they're already not in the majority.
I mean, based off this last vote, it looks like they do currently have the majority with Sage and Jawan voting with them this episode.
Yeah, but they're not
So
going to vote with them every episode, and
no,
they
but
know
that's the
that.
risk to take when making a vote. Like I don't know, Sophie, Christina, or Steven. Any of those three, you target them, and Juwan and Sage decides, well, I want that to be the vote. All of a sudden, you get blindsided. So I'm just thinking of those three. Sophie seems the safest one to try and convince the group to go after.
Okay, but I'm very confused as to what you think their plan from there would be. Like why it's so impossible when the votes are 4-4 for them to take out someone like Steven or Christina, but in taking out Sophie, they're making the numbers 4-3. They're making it more impossible for them to eventually take out one of those players. If they're gonna do it, if they're gonna have to take out Steven or Christina, it's not gonna be easier after voting out somebody who's probably going to work with them to do that.
I don't know. My thought was that there's a lot of ways that they could maneuver that socially, maybe even pulling in uh, Sage and Juwan long term, or even Steven and Christina, and maneuvering the game in a way that they could make it to the end in such a fashion, right? Some of the people that are at the top that we expect to win have a lot of ways that they could pull the strings, I think. Advantages, definitely one of them.
Sure,
And
but
then
like,
on convincing people that Sage and Jawan are too powerful, right? They've been a good duo for a while,
but
and that's something they could make
why are none of
people
these
into.
things why are none of these things that they can do at final eight? Why do they have to do it final seven after voting out somebody who could be a number for them to make it easier? Like for example, Savannah's extra vote, great for them at final eight, completely useless at final seven if they vote out Sophie.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just thinking it's a thought that if they're worried about Sage and Jawan flipping, this could be another way to keep that solid. And I honestly don't necessarily know how much they can trust Sophie long term. That's something that I'm just throwing out there as a possibility, given we don't know what's going to happen going forward with that group.
Well, they can trust her a hell of a lot more than they can trust Steven and Christina.
And while that is true, there could also be some pushback from someone like Sage or Jawan saying, hey, I'd rather do this person than this person, is something that I could see happening. I don't know.
I just I just don't think they have Sophie as a number, or I sorry, I just don't think they have Sage or Jawan as a number, even if they vote out Sophie. But okay, we just got done talking about Sophie, so now we are going to talk about Steven, who has dropped quite significantly. Sort of 2 episodes in a row, losing pretty close allies for him that were pretty clear allies for him in the edit as well. Losing those allies both so early is just not a good look for him. What do you have for Steven?
I mean, biggest thing I can say for Steven this episode is doesn't look like there's a bunch of like really positive content in terms of his chances to win the game anymore. And it's unfortunate because Steven was actually pretty high up on some of my previous rankings, some of your previous rankings, and we kind of had to assume that their tribe seems to be edited as the uncomplex tribe. But, with some of the ways that they've edited it to try and throw people off in the new era, and even like newer seasons that were pre-new era, they'd shown ways that they could kind of manipulate that to being a swap tribe, and maybe that could have been the case here, except it doesn't look like it was. It looks like, unfortunately, starting on Hina was kind of the death sentence in terms of your edit and in terms of your chances to win, because now we're watching Steven's confessional numbers plummet even. He's had 2 straight episodes under 4 confessionals, which has brought his average down from around 4 to now it's about 3.25 or 3 1/3. So I don't know. The confessionals weren't that entertaining. Half of it was talking about feeling like almost like nightmares about the chickens, and really just didn't get anything positive going for Steven this episode.
Yeah, those chickens though do seem to haunt him. um, yeah, no, I agree. I just think overall content has gone severely downhill for him. Just his position in the game at this point. He has gone from at the tippy top with the Nate boot to just completely on the bottom now. Him and Christina and Alex obviously being the only ones left out of the last vote, so just not great. But moving on, I have Jawan Pitts, and Jawan, you know, he got some personal content this episode that I thought was pretty good. Um, I don't know if that's maybe something that you want to touch on.
I mean, yeah, I actually thought this is really cool. We finally get to see, some parts of Jawan that haven't really been shown on screen, which I think is really cool. We get to see a little bit into his life and to his family life. We get to see that he's a really sportive person, and we get to see some cool content in the fact that multiple people are shown, whether it's in the, TV version or in cut version of the episode, but talking about how they feel really bad about Jawan's lack of rewards, and he finally gets to do, you know, kind of decent in a challenge. Looks like he might win it for the tribe, doesn't quite get it done, and then still gets to go on the reward anyways because of how much of a supportive person he's been for the tribe, which again leads into his personal stuff where it shows how supportive he is with his family and how important this is to him. So I just think that's really cool that we got to see him go on the reward, him open up, and then in some deleted scenes that were on online already, that Steven talked about potentially giving up his spot on the reward if it meant Jawan could go. So it's really cool to see stuff like that when someone finally gets to open up after being a really fun character for a while on this season.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the personal content is great. I think it's I always like seeing it. It always, sort of gets you a little bit more connected to the player, and obviously that's good for their edit. So that's part of the reason why Jawan has moved up slightly on my rankings. He, took out Alex, which a lot of people are saying maybe wasn't the best move for him and Sage. I don't necessarily disagree. I don't necessarily agree with the idea that they're just like following Savannah and Rizzo, though. I think that's I don't know. I just don't agree with that. I don't think that that's what they're doing. I think that given what they did in episode in episode 7 with voting out Nate, if they were really going to be just followers, they would continue voting with Steven and Christina, I think by choosing to continue to work with Rizzo and Savannah for another vote, and not just like flip-flopping back and forth literally every single vote, they're kind of showing at the very least that they're thinking through their decisions, and maybe next vote they flip back and try to make a move on Rizzo. Not that I think it's going to work, but I could definitely see them doing it. Same, or maybe they take the shot at Savannah if she doesn't win immunity. Maybe they take the shot at Soph. Regardless, though, I just don't necessarily agree with the sentiment that I've seen some people say that they're just kind of following the Uli Alliance now, because they already took a pretty big shot at it with Nate, and I don't necessarily think that they're just gonna keep voting with those guys until the end of the season.
Yeah, I'll even add to that quickly and say the reason that Alex got voted out is supposedly was playing the middle. If anyone has been playing the middle this season, it is clearly Jawan and Sage.
Yeah, obviously. So
they have done exactly what it means to be going back and forth. I wouldn't say that they're following anyone, and I think that segues us nicely into Sage here, which she had a pretty interesting episode. Good bit of content again every single episode since I think it's episode 5 now. She's had at least 5+ confessionals.
Yeah, she's definitely a main character on the season, that's for sure.
And I mean, the content we got this episode too, I wouldn't say there was anything truly negative in it. I would say for the most part it's pretty interesting to see that, again, kind of surveying her options, her and Jawan announcing a couple times that they're still pretty tight of a duo and still feel pretty good about their position in the game. And honestly, I think Sage is showing that she's a lot more strategic than she was kind of given light to in the first few episodes.
Yeah.
So I think this is a pretty decent episode for Sage as a whole.
My only gripe with Sage at this point is that like a decent amount of times now we've seen her kind of state what she would like to do with the vote, and she kind of keeps getting swayed by um, Jawan to maybe make a move that she doesn't necessarily agree with. And it's good to show maybe that like perhaps Jawan is making mistakes and Sage is recognizing what the actual best strategic course of action is for them. But the fact that she doesn't have the ability to actually sway Jawan to do what she wants, even if it is the correct thing, just doesn't necessarily bode well for her in my mind. I mean, I have her in my top four now at this point. That's in large part a product of just how few people are left, but it is also the fact that I think her edit has some pretty decent upside. But that is the one flaw for her that I think is just the fact that she doesn't seem to have as much agency, where she's constantly expressing, like, I think this should happen, and then it's not so much that it's not happening because she's not able to make it happen. It's just not what her, because her and Jawan have all the power and have had all the power in most of these situations. It's just been that her closest ally is Jawan, and he seems to have more of a, how do I put this? Because it's not so much that he has more of a pull on Sage than Sage has on him. It just seems like maybe Jawan has more conviction. Maybe Sage is more likely to throw in the towel and do what Jawan wants to do. Um, and I don't know. I think that might bite Sage in the ass, considering the fact that they might not be making the best moves for their games. Certainly not voting out MC, and I don't know about voting out Alex if it was the best move for them, but we'll see. Um, what do you think? Are you ready to move on to the next player?
Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well, and I think that is I would agree that we kind of have a top three going into the rest of the season here, and this is kind of where it starts of like the real contenders. Maybe you don't agree with that, but I think that the true top tier contenders are left to be discussed.
Yeah. So first off, we have Sophie Bellerti. Um, Sophie is an interesting player to me. I don't know. Like, I just feel like there's something kind of inconsistent about her edit, something that's not quite clicking or gelling. Um, but it's hard to say that anybody on this season has a perfect edit by any means. Um, so having her at number three, it almost feels wrong in a way, but it also, I don't think I could move her any lower. So I don't know. I might go so far as to say I have a top two, and Soph's edit is enough where she's still a contender, but it's just kind of like something needs to happen in one of these next couple episodes to really push Soph back into that, like, yeah, I could 100% see her winning territory. Because right now, I think she's just kind of been middling recently, which, is perfectly fine considering her early edit was as great as it was in my opinion. Like, her early edit is really carrying her into this top tier, because if I was just going based off of her merge edit, she'd definitely be probably somewhere closer to the middle. And I'm a little bit concerned about that, but I don't know. Maybe you have a different perspective. Maybe you think that I'm not giving Soph's edit post merge enough credit.
I mean, I kind of can't disagree that merge edit hasn't been significantly moving. I just wouldn't say that it's really been bad either. Honestly, if we're just looking at from the merge standpoint, I could only move her down one more spot. Like, I truly don't think outside of maybe Sage is anyone I'd bump up enough to like really move Soph down. But that's just because I think Sage has had a really good edit since like the swap and just really has been a key player at this point for the last few episodes in a row. However, back to Soph. I mean, this episode was a bit of a rebound from last, and honestly wasn't a terrible episode for her. the trio that she's in got their way, and things are on the up and up. She got rid of the attachment to Alex, which it's an interesting one because that was one that they looked like they could have been really good allies, and then it almost is like the connection disappeared.
Yeah.
Because I know a few episodes back we talked about how that might come into play with like the knowledge of power in the future, that she could maybe take advantage of what Alex shares with her, but like nothing happened between the two of them.
Yeah, now I'm almost thinking like I still do really feel like Soph steals Christina's idol, but I'm like, who tells her about it now? Because it could be Jawan, right? Because I'm pretty sure Jawan knows about it now.
Yep, which theoretically could also mean Sage, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Or my theory could be completely wrong. Maybe she doesn't even use the knowledge of power. Maybe she steals Rizzo's idol. Who knows? I do think I have theory that that Christina's idol is getting stolen next episode, based on the next time on. I see that jury reaction that they showed us, and I'm like, they wouldn't react like that to just like Rizzo playing his idol, right? This idol that he has publicly stated he has at every tribal council since the Nate boot. The jury's not going to be in shock and horror that Rizzo would play his idol. In fact, they're probably more likely to react like that if he doesn't. But even still, how shocking would that be at this point? Rizzo not playing his idol. What else is new? It definitely has to be something, I think, with either Soph's knowledge is power or some advantage that we don't know about yet. Or maybe it's Christina's idol. Maybe Christina plays her idol and it's a successful play and she takes out Soph
Someone.
or,
Yeah.
someone,
I mean,
maybe
also
Savannah.
maybe some
But
shot in the dark, I guess, is possible. But yeah, I would lean that you are probably. I would say, as much as we've, beaten the dead horse on the idea of, oh, this could finally be when she plays the knowledge is power, this actually does feel like the time where it's like they've given us the cliffhanger in the next time on, and it really looks like something big happens at Tribal. So, what bigger bomb than finally having a knowledge is power get correctly played?
my my honest prediction is that Sage and Jawan flip back to work with Steven and Christina, but they try to sort of play double agent. Um, maybe maybe we could see Steven go because Steven's obviously going to be more of a threat than Christina to most players, but maybe Jawan lets it slip that Christina has an idol. Um, and essentially Rizzo, Savannah, Soph decide that they want to target Steven. Um, and so Jawan and Sage go to Steven and be like, hey, by the way, you guys are the target. Maybe try to convince Christina to play her idol on you. And then Sophie, Sophie S is fully committed now to working with Savannah, Rizzo, and Soph. So that's a type four. We have a type four on the other side with um, Juwan, Sage, Steven, and Christina. Maybe they think they have Sophie. Maybe the three think they have Juwan and Sage. Probably not both, but maybe one of them is playing double agent. Who knows? I don't know if Sophie knows about Christina's idol. Also, I'm not 100% sure about that. Um, but basically, what I predict happens is that um Savannah plays her extra vote, which everyone I think pretty much knows that she has at this point, or at least her close allies do. Um, making it a 5-4, and then Christina plans on playing her idol, except it gets on Steven, except it gets stolen by Soph. So the combination of Soph stealing the idol and Savannah using her extra vote, they actually have the majority with Sophie voting with them, and they manage to take out Steven, and Soph gets to potentially hold on to Christina's idol. and Rizzo maybe even still gets to keep his. It's a crazy prediction because like why would, for example, Sophie allow this to happen? Um, but she almost might have to, considering she can't trust Steven and Christina at this point. Um, and I think it would be very interesting. I think that sort of a play would warrant that sort of jury reaction to have Soph steal Christina's idol and then not even play it and take out her closest ally. And now, and now we have an alliance of, now this alliance of underdogs has turned into an alliance of four going to the final seven who still has two idols and also two of the best immunity competitors of the season in their alliance, and that's how they take complete dominant control over the game. I think that could be interesting.
Definitely an outcome that could exist. I mean, the likelihood of that knowledge is power either getting played this episode or just not getting played at all the entire season, really, I think is so high. I think if we don't see it this next episode, I'd put my money on it never being played. And
See
like
that?
just that kind of reaction from a jury sounds like something massive happens. The other theory that, you know what, I don't completely hate is potential like double idol play, nobody gets a vote, and they go to a really interesting revote or something.
It's definitely possible too. Yeah,
Because like two idols, and then they see, oh wait, there was 9 votes. Oh my god, what's gonna happen? You know, the reaction almost seems too large for just that kind of play. But that's the only other theory that really comes to mind that seems like somewhat probable is a
that would.
double idol advantage play where the extra vote gets played, and all of a sudden, oh my god, no votes, but there's 9, so
And
could be
then
something.
I and then I believe Savannah's extra vote would carry into the revote where they maybe vote.
Would then probably just pick whoever they want to go out, I
Yeah,
suppose.
it would be crazy if Christina played her idol on Steven and then in the revote they voted out Christina.
And I
That
mean,
would be
we proposed
tragic.
earlier that Christina doesn't get to play her idol on herself and
Yeah,
goes home with it. What if she goes home without it because she didn't play it on herself?
yeah,
You know?
because she played it on Steven correctly, even. But
And yet it still doesn't matter because of an extra vote and an idol from the other side. So there's options for what could happen if that extra, if that knowledge is power isn't played. But I would love to see the knowledge is power finally get played correctly. I think that would be the coolest outcome for sure.
I think the saddest outcome would be Soph using it to steal Rizzo's idol for some reason.
I mean, if she flips, that's like massive win agency, but at the same time, also puts her such a big target on her back. It's crazy. I don't know. It would be weird. Could see her doing
I'd
it
be
final
upset.
five to get him out would be the other option, or something
Yeah,
like that. Or final six, where it's like, oh, he saved it this whole time and he knows he can play it, and then Soph just goes yoink, goodbye.
I'd be so sad. I'd be so sad for the RIZGOD.
I mean, that'd be the best way for him to go out if he's gonna lose Survivor 49 is to like either fire or like final five getting his idol yoinked.
I just want to see Rizzo play his idol correctly because just like the aura of like being on the
Holding it.
chopping block every single tribal council and holding on to it until you actually need it and just like not taking any of the, like never wasting it no matter how much temptation is put on you to waste it, and then you play it at the perfect moment. Like, god, it would be epic. Um
Yeah.
anyways, we've kind
Speaking
of,
of,
well, actually we still have to talk about Savannah. We didn't even,
right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Number two, I have Savannah, and really it just boils down to the fact that Savannah has a very negative edit overall, like a lot of negative content for Savannah. Now, that is very heavily outweighed by a lot of personal content, which has been reiterated even this episode. Like she talked about it again, which I think is pretty big. Sort of an underdog portrayal. Um, there are a lot of things going for Savannah's edit, but it's a little bit hard to put her in that top spot when she's been portrayed as this like villain. It's just not a way that they portray recent winners, especially. Um, so that's kind of why I have her at two at the moment, but still a very solid edit. Just a lot going for her. By far the most confessionals of the season, which isn't necessarily a good thing, but I don't know. It's hard not to make her a contender when she has 58 confessionals and she's made it to final eight at this point, and she seems to be in actually a pretty good position. And it's like I'm very interested to see how the rest of the game goes for her.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big things that I would say is like the real negative is like, I mean, her content is weirdly so up and down for a winner as well. Looking at, if you look at some of the content for, previous winners, how often do you get someone that goes from 2 to 12 to 11 to 2 to 4 to 13 to 3? It seems so sporadically up and down, and it's like, could happen, could be a winner at it. At the same time, also seems really likely for someone that gets out at like final four, final five, maybe loses right at the end of the game. And again, as you mentioned, she seems almost like this villain light type of edit. So like, yeah, she's not been a hardcore villain. She's not like the real bad guy of the season, but like, there's enough content to indicate that they aren't trying to portray her as like the hero. So
I mean, I'll say like Rachel's content was pretty up and down for most of the season.
yeah, but she was also a fairly dominant winner when she got into that position, which at this moment Savannah might get into, but we'd still need another episode or two to really lock in that, her trio is the dominant trio for the season. And this next episode would be crucial in making that happen. I mean, if we watch her allies pop off, pull a cool play, and maybe save Savannah's life in the game, that would be awesome. And it would do numbers for her edit to make her a number one contender. But likewise, I have her in my number two because there's just certain things that even though she has the confessional lead and again is a big target but saves herself, there's just certain smaller things that I see that she doesn't have that right now, the player I have in first, I would say checking a few extra boxes.
Definitely. And we'll talk about him now. The man, the myth, the legend. RIZGOD, RIZGOD, baby. So, yeah. I mean, he's the RIZGOD. What else is there to say?
I mean, he's 26 now. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, we're recording this either on his birthday or the day after. I'm not actually sure.
Yeah, which I mean, there's just so many good things we can say about this man. He's just been a pretty awesome figure throughout the entire season. Really, really fun to watch on the silver screen. I mean, just some really fun little confessional moments. He just got an episode title, which was really awesome.
Yeah,
So,
that's always nice. Yeah, no, just good content, not overbearing, right? 42 confessionals. I mean, puts him in fourth most of the season. I mean, actually third most now that Alex is gone technically, but like that's a pretty good spot to be in, I think, at this position at this point in the game to have the third most confessionals in the season. Um, with Jawan like really close behind him.
and
Um,
Sage, not far either. Four
yeah,
behind is really not that much to scoff at. So, like,
yeah, no, I mean he's not overbearing. He's not like Savannah, who's maybe a little bit overexposed. He's got like honestly like the perfect number of confessionals. He has like he's sort of protected, I think, in that episode where Nate goes home. He gets the least amount of confessionals in the episode that is worst for his game. I mean, tied with a couple of other episodes, but he just gets the least amount of content overall, which usually for a merge episode isn't great. But for a merge episode where he loses one of his closest allies, it actually is a pretty good sign. Purely focusing on the edit, when you have something really bad happen to a player in the game and they don't get as much content in that episode because the edit essentially doesn't want you thinking about that player as much. in an episode where they don't get their way or something really bad happens for their game, um, because they don't want you to heavily associate that player with that bad moment if they're gonna end up winning. Also, I made a mistake. Rizzo did get one confessional in episode two, which is fewer, but still. Regardless, my point still stands. You know, he gets a little bit less content in an episode where you wouldn't necessarily want to see him get a ton of content, and then aside from that, his content's been fairly consistent, and he hasn't been overbearing, but he's still gotten a lot of content. He's portrayed as very smart. Everything that he says, everything that comes out of his mouth is like, this needs to happen, happens. Alex needs to go. Nobody else wants Alex gone. Suddenly, everybody on the fucking island wants Alex gone because Rizzo does. You know? It's like, that's the type of that's the type of power that that the RIZGOD has over this game, which is insane. It's insane that I'm talking about the RIZGOD, the guy who calls himself the RIZGOD, right? From the Survivor 49 premiere, when we finished Survivor 48 and they showed us for our first glimpse at this season, and we all laughed at the fucking RIZGOD, and now he's the most powerful player in this entire season by far. Everybody's just bending to his will. He has an idol that he just doesn't need to play, despite the fact that everyone's constantly talking about how they need to get him out. And it's like, how did this happen? How is the RIZGOD, the RIZGOD RIZGOD baby, the like king of this season, just like absolutely dominating? It's insane. I could not have possibly expected this. It's great. It's phenomenal. I love it.
Yeah, and few things to add because I don't want to just keep repeating over you. Um, it's also really awesome to just see what kind of magic he's been able to make happen. Right? I mean, as you mentioned, the episode where one of his better allies goes home, he only gets the two confessionals, but then he bounces right up to five again and right up to seven. Pretty good numbers, back to back episodes. And I mean, he just has some amazing quotes, right? Just so many things that he says that are just super quotable, super awesome. Sounds like it's straight out of a movie line. So, like, it's just really cool to see what he's done and what he could do next, who he's going to bamboozle into his, goals and his vote lines next. I think it's going to be quite awesome to see how he continues to really drive his trio towards the top of the game and right back to the majority.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Plus,
Yeah,
the idle play is always on the table.
yeah, I'm gonna be interested to see also how. Well, never mind. Actually, I'm not gonna talk about that. Whoops, my bad. Yeah, I love the Riz God. I'm I'm just like I'm just so taken aback by how genuinely good he is at the game, considering how much of a joke he was preseason. You know, and
Yeah, and I mean,
just
with
goes to show.
season 50 on the horizon, there's still being two spots up for grabs, or maybe in future seasons. I mean, come on,
Yeah,
who wouldn't want people from Yonkers to come back eventually, right?
who wouldn't want it? I would be excited to see it if it were to happen. I'd be excited to see how he might play with small stars. Um,
I think it'd be fun, and I mean, who knows? Maybe he wins the season. We see him on Winners Award too, eh? Wouldn't that be pretty cool?
that'd be great. That'd be great. Rizzo on Winners at War with hanging out with Rachel and Kyle and Kenzie. Not that she would be on, but it'd be a lot of
Yeah, I
fun.
mean, possibilities are endless. I mean, I think he's the favorite right now, and it's an outcome we could see happening.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited. But with that being said, I mean, it's kind of all I wanted to talk about with this episode. It was a fairly straightforward episode for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, no kind of crazy twists. Challenge is pretty uh out of this world.
You know what? It was a
Uh,
new
but,
challenge
but
though.
yeah, And I wanted to throw in some kind of space pun. I thought that'd be fun because,
Because of Steven, yeah.
yep, some space facts. Um,
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought it was a good episode. Not not an amazing episode. The season in general has kind of had been a lot of like pretty good episodes. Not nothing amazing. Um, but
yeah, I mean, honestly, that Nate going home, as tragic as that was probably the most entertaining episode in terms of being like a really different or like unexpected result.
yeah, Nate
Which,
definitely shocked me.
and yeah, and that's the good thing about a show like Survivor. Anything can happen, anytime, any place. Well, it used to be any place. Now it's just Fiji, but you get my point.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, luckily I'm not as down on the new era as a whole as a lot of people are. I think like the stretch of seasons from 45 to 47 are like is just a phenomenal stretch of seasons. So the fact that 48 was kind of up and down for me and 49 has just kind of been like middling for the most part. I'm not too upset about it. It's like I'm sure season 50 is going to be great. I'm sure the rest of the season is going to be pretty good, maybe even amazing. Who knows? It could really pick up in the next few episodes. But yeah, overall this is an enjoyable season so far. I'm excited to see how it goes. Um and I'm excited to watch the RIZGOD claim his $1 million prize.
I'm on that board with you.
That being said, the pod has spoken.